Well, that episode of Titans just kicked ass. Like, arguably the best episode of Titans we have got so far. Let's talk about episode 6, titled Jason Todd. What is up, Titans? Welcome back to a brand new freaking review and breakdown for Titans episode 6, titled Jason Todd. And as you saw from my intro just there, definitely my favorite episode so far. I have heard before Titans came out that it would be getting better and better until the ending episodes. But, you know, I've still enjoyed the beginning episodes, especially Hawk and Dove. That seems to have been most people's favorite. And, you know, I feel like people are going to say that about this episode, because not only did they get Jason Todd insanely accurate and just really cool, this episode was just filled with so much coolness. And yeah, just what I said, really kind of delving in further than we've ever gone before with those Dick Grayson flashbacks, because we got Batcave stuff. I mean, in terms of Batman, this was so cool for that. This episode showed so much of like the reflection Batman has had, not only on like, you know, Dick Grayson, but Jason Todd as well. So let's get straight into this, guys. Subscribe for more Titans videos just like this, and go ahead and click the like button if you do go on to enjoy this video, as it really does help this video get out there a little bit more. Now, I really liked how the episode started off with that flashback to the Graysons' funeral. Now, this is where we got our little bit of a first tease for Anthony Zuko, the guy who was responsible for killing Dick Grayson's parents. And this scene kind of set up that tease for what we were going to tackle later on in the episode. But just seeing all the members of like the circus there, in particular Clay, because we get a few more Feelsy Clay moments throughout this episode, it was just really nice, and just something that, you know, Clay said to Dick Grayson, or younger Dick Grayson, and how living with Bruce Wayne is going to change your life forever. And, you know, that couldn't have been more true. Little did Clay know exactly how it was going to quite turn out for Dick Grayson compared to living with Clay. And that's when this little Batman kind of theme happened in the episode, and it's not the first time they've done it. I think they've done it before when Dick was racing off in his Porsche to go find Rachel, but that is for sure like these cellos that kept coming in, and it was very reminiscent of, you know, the Batman Begins or the Dark Knight, basically the Nolan series Batman theme. Oh man, now Jason Todd in this episode and Dick Grayson, their journey together was very cool. And Jason Todd, I couldn't have been happier with this iteration of him. He is fantastic. He's such a fanboy of Dick Grayson. Now, when he first said, you know, like, Bruce is fine with me being here, because Dick was like, does Bruce Batman even know you're here? I thought for a second maybe at this moment in the episode he was lying, because, you know, maybe Batman wouldn't want Jason Todd hanging out with Dick Grayson, because he might maybe try and turn, you know, Jason Todd against Batman, or just give him the same ideals as what made Dick Grayson leave the Batcave, in terms of how being a Robin and what Bruce turns you into isn't something that is essentially a great thing. And we found out that Bruce did actually send Jason Todd there, because we know that these photos of Nick Zuko, like, killing people were sent to Gotham PD, to Robin, but not obviously the current Robin. And Batman essentially would know that this would obviously mean a lot to Dick Grayson, but I definitely feel like there's a little bit of flexing from Batman there at the same time, in terms of how I don't think he particularly minded at all, after all, that Jason was going to go and find Robin. But just in a sense, from Bruce's perspective, him probably thinking, hey, look at what you're missing out on. Hey, I let him drive the Batmobile. Hey, I've given him upgraded freaking armor 6 times stronger than Kevlar weaving. Now, as Dick said as well, like, Bruce didn't waste any time getting a new Robin, because what we know, I think it's been like around a year or so since, you know, Dick Grayson, or Robin, left Gotham, right? And he's been a detective and becoming his own man since then. And we know that Jason Todd has been with Batman for a year, so he literally didn't waste any time. He found out that he was essentially trying to steal Bruce's car, took him in. I absolutely loved Dick Grayson's reaction to finding out that he had a tracking chip in his arm, and Jason Todd was aware of that. Now, there definitely were benefits to this, in terms of how I agree completely with what Jason Todd said, and how if there were any trouble, Batman, despite their differences in baggage, would try to help out Dick Grayson for sure, right? But I get Dick Grayson's side of this in terms of how he has this, skewed perception of Batman. A lot of it true. So he would only see this as Bruce Wayne trying to control him. If anything, Robin's being like birds in a cage to him. They're his pet. I think he even said something like that in this episode. But Jason Todd being so exhilarated and thrilled with the position he is in just doesn't get in this episode at all where Robin is coming from, or should I say Dick Grayson, because he just thinks being Robin is the greatest thing anyone could ever do. And it's just such a fascinating contrast between, one person, Dick Grayson, who's lived with him his whole life, who understands exactly what Bruce can turn you into. And then there's this kid who's just like, this is the best thing in the world. And I found like he had the audacity to say, I just don't think you get him, man. And Dick was just like, I think I'm the one person in the world who understands Bruce. So I found that quite a funny thing to say as well from the side of Jason. But this is what I mean. Obviously, Titans isn't about Batman in particular, but we're all Batman fans. So I just love how much of this understanding we got into this relationship, and a lot more emphasis and context to it all than what we've never got before. We even learned that Bruce has never explained to Jason Todd. It may be because he partly may know that Dick Grayson could be right. He might be worried about scaring Jason off a little bit, like, Dick Grayson was scared off from Batman. But he never told Jason Todd why Dick Grayson left. And I do like how they chucked in at the same time, even though we know how vocal Dick Grayson is about not being Robin or being with Batman anymore, he was still kind of struggling with the idea of getting used to being replaced, as he put it himself to Corey in this episode. And that's definitely true, even though he doesn't want to be a Robin anymore or anything like that. Just being replaced so quickly would make you feel a bit like, oh, okay. But anyway, going back to that moment of when Jason Todd gave the photos that were sent to the Gotham PD of these people being murdered, I really like how when they were discussing how it was hydrofluoric acid, they were saying that was the signature of the Maroney family, Harvey Dent, your parents. And, that was like a little Easter egg there. I mean, we know the Maroney family have been using this hydrofluoric acid, and we find a lot out to do with that in this episode. But, mentioning Harvey Dent there as well, obvious reasons. So that was pretty cool. Really, really, really loved that safe house, like Bat-esque computer, by the way. That was just so cool. It was quite funny how, just on top of other things we've been discussing about already, Dick Grayson, it's like, changing the locks if you kick your kid out. But I guess maybe from Bruce's salty perspective, it's like, if you leave this little Robin nest, you're on your own. But in terms of Batmobile, I'm pretty sure in the safe house, we saw a little Easter egg to do with the Batmobile on one of the screens. No, it's not Dick Grayson's Porsche or anything like that. That's long gone. It wouldn't be any other car. And it definitely is a believable shape of a car for the Batmobile, and especially from what we see later in the Batcave. So the photo you're probably seeing on screen right now, I 99 give or take percent believe that is the Batmobile. Now, as for the Titans in this episode, they arrived to the safe house, and this was really funny. Now, there wasn't so much Titans in this episode in terms of, Beastboy, Corey. I would say Corey more so than anyone, and Raven. Beastboy naturally fanboying out about Robin, or Dick Grayson being Robin, let alone meeting Batman, finding out there's another Robin, and even thinking, wait, can I be Robin? That was just so funny, and just seeing Raven's reaction like, oh my god. I just love Raven and Beastboy together. I can't wait for more little things like that to happen this season. But anyway, guys, let's get to that 2 years ago flashback, which includes the Batcave, when also Anthony Zucco was arrested, and he was going to make a deal to essentially snitch on the Maroney family, and that way, he would, be given some leniency. Dick didn't like that at all, because obviously he was responsible for killing his parents. But, if you can take down the whole Maroney crime family, or at least put away a lot of people. So you kind of do understand both sides of the story, but you can completely understand why Dick is completely furious, and even supporting Batman in that moment, saying this is why Batman does things like he does, because people like that shouldn't get any form of justice no matter what. But diving straight into that Batcave scene, it was just so cool. Now, at first of all, I was like, oh my god, Batmobile. But then I was like, hang on a second. But I definitely do, after a little bit, now think that it definitely is the Batmobile. At first, I just expected it to kind of be a bit more, not necessarily like proper plated, like the Batman vs Superman one, or the Arkham Games version of it, or something like that. But I expected it to be a bit more kind of, I don't know, military. So I thought, could this just be a cool car parked in the Batcave? But no, it definitely is, because you, even in that blurry shot in the background, you do see how on the Batmobile there's two little pods of the windshield, if you will, where like you would have Batman and Robin in it. The paint wasn't as black as what I was expecting. It was more like a really dark gray, like blackish kind of color. And you can definitely definitely see that it is, with this kind of windshield would be bulletproof. The way it's kind of attached to the chassis slash body of the Batmobile. It's just not as like high tech as what I was thinking, but then again, you know, it might have some really cool ability to, like, I don't know, flip its plating and implement some armor stuff to it. But either way, not every Batmobile in history has been mega military-esque, technological looking plated stuff, right? And I kind of dig that because they've made it modern yet classical. So I really, really like it. Obviously, it was really obscure, really blurred. It definitely also matches the Batmobile that we got an Easter egg of on the Safe House Bat-esque computer. So really, 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 really cool scene. Now, obviously, at this moment, you have to really feel for Dick Grayson because this is the guy that killed his parents and he's being transported. But when he comes in, holy shit, this is what I mean. All of this collectively makes this episode absolutely freaking amazing. Robin does that amazing superhero landing in this episode on top of the van that Anthony Zucco was in. I just love the fight choreography in this. It's just so good. Now, obviously, at this point in time, in these flashbacks, is right just before when Dick Grayson left Batman. So I thought that this moment, Robin would do something where he actually kills Anthony Zucco himself. I thought that he was going to do the deed because he was beating him to an absolute pulp. Like, I thought he was actually going to beat him to death. But it turns out the Maroni family were coming, obviously, to silence Zucco because, you know, he would have snitched on them. So they were going to shoot him with the acid bullets. Well, they did. But Dick Grayson could have done something about that. And he even got begged to save his life. And he was just like, no, like in a very Frodo moment, the ring is mine kind of thing. So in Dick Grayson's mind, he kind of definitely is responsible for killing Anthony Zucco. And this set up the whole storyline for Anthony Zucco's son, Nick, for him to become a villain, which I really love, and I'll press on that in a second. But this moment was just really powerful. The acting was great. Everything was great. The cinematics were. Just when Robin was just like, you know, I want my parents back. With all of this in context with the flashback scenes we got before with mini Dick Grayson, it was just really, really, really cool to see it come to fruition and see the backstory of why Dick Grayson left Batman. Because as I said a second ago, he was pretty blunt, pretty violent. He actually enjoyed he admitted after the flashback, that was the bad thing about it, after speaking to Jason Todd, that it must have felt kind of awesome, and it did, watching Anthony Zucco die. And at the same time, that probably made Dick Grayson feel a bit disgusted in himself. And that's where we, you know, leading up to present day, he's apart from Batman. Now, what I love about the next moment, and essentially the end of this episode, is that when Robin goes after Clay, and, you know, because Nick Zucco, you know, essentially captured him and was about to drop a load of acid on top of him. This is very familiar of the traditional kind of way Batman has inadvertently or unknowingly or not intentionally created a lot of his villains. This moment when Nick was explaining why he has become the way he is, because of what Dick Grayson did that night when he could have protected his father, the Maronis killed the father, obviously. This meant that there was no witness protection or, you know, kind of protection for the family of, you know, Anthony Zucco. So the Maroni family went after him, his fiance, his sister. He even melted them. They weren't so successful in melting him. But you could tell Nick in the flashbacks wasn't necessarily like his father and wouldn't have become this villain we see him in right at the end of this episode if it wasn't for the actions that led to these consequences of, you know, Dick Grayson trying to beat his father to death. Now, this is when Jason Todd comes in to save the day. All of this stuff was so cool to see. Combat, yet again, thumbs up from me. I don't know what else to say, otherwise I'll just keep saying awesome repeatedly. Jason gets shot with an acid bullet, but thanks to those Xylon fibers and the upgraded version of the Robin suit, he's absolutely fine. Now, this moment was very, very interesting, and I was shocked because when we saw those cops come in, we saw Jason Todd beat the living crap out of them. He broke their legs, he broke their arms, their shoulders, and at the very end, he was like, lights out, bitch, and he literally broke that cop's back. And I thought, holy crap, like that was dark. When Jason was just like, you know, this is what it's all about. Wearing a mask gives me the permission to do whatever the F I want. It's just like, no, man, like you've got such a skewed perception. Dick was just like, there's no way Batman would be cool with you beating on cops like this. And he was just like, well, I don't see Batman around, do you? The way Jason views this is that, you know, he used to get beat on by cops like a lot of the time because, as he put it, like half the cops are useless and then half the cops are dirty. And I expect that he has been through a lot of times where you've seen those arsehole kind of cops like in Gotham or whatever, and he's being caught out bad. So now he's under a mask. He is, well, getting his revenge in a way. And it just gave me like a glimpse of, man, when this guy becomes the Red Hood, and we've seen the way he can do combat already, and you know what he can just be like in the future with that storyline. I could really see it. Like, I just saw the visuals in my head of the Red Hood future for this kid. It was just, it was very cool and very disturbing at the same time. And then at the very end of the episode, guys, we saw Corey visit Dr. Adamson after waking up finally throughout this episode. And he's like, I'm not talking to anyone but Rachel. And then that gives us our little teaser for next week's episode, where it looks like the Titans getting captured from the next promo. And it's all up to Rachel being manipulated by Dr. Adamson and the organization. They try and do what they want, which is contact Trigon, and then maybe her friends will be safe. So we've got that to look forward to next week. But guys, can you guess what I'm going to say? Solid episode, best episode. I think I've already said that at the beginning. It was just amazing. So many things I could be happy about. I know this review was a teeny bit longer, but there was just so much fanboying and discussion and breaking down to do. Let me know what you thought of this episode down in the comments below. Other than that, everyone, if you want to see more Titans videos just like this and other nerdy and geeky content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it. It really does help the video out. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Titans in the next video. Goodbye.